Good afternoon, troops. Welcome to Acsom on a Tuesday afternoon, or at least I think it's a Tuesday afternoon in Scotland. It's a little bit later for me down here in Western Australia. It's around about 7:30 at night. So I'll be hosting tonight in lieu of Paul John, who's I think he's away getting a haircut at the moment. So the next time you see him, just say his hair looks amazing, even if it looks the exact same. Just say your hair looks amazing, mate. And just to keep him, let him know, let him feel good. Tonight I'm joined by Lawrence, who's in the Skylark Bar. How are you going, Lawrence?
Yeah, doing well. We got another win at the weekend. Team wasn't out of first gear. Maybe not as smooth as we'd been prior to the international break. So I don't know how much angles coming in for Bernardo maybe disrupted things a wee bit. Maybe he's used to playing with the rest of the team. He looked good, taking his penalty well. And but what the ref was doing, who knows?
So
how he gives
a
penalty against us, mate. It's off a scales his shoulder at close distance. What does he see? And then the Hearts player, he only uses two hands. The only thing he doesn't do is hold it, but he doesn't give a penalty. Nuts.
Yeah, he was an interesting character, that Penrice. He seemed to have his own views on how the game should be refereed. What did you make of the Scales one? Was your initial thought there was a penalty, and then what did you make of the VAR review of it?
I thought Scales I thought he lost Shankland, actually. I thought it's probably one of the few mistakes he'd made in the game. He wasn't too sure where the striker was. He's turned around. I thought it came off his shoulder. I thought it was so close, there was nothing he could do about it. So I actually thought it should be a corner to Hearts. And I didn't think that the ref pointed to the penalty until after. I think it was Taylor flicked the ball out. So I don't know how he restarted with a bounce ball to us, because I thought the ball was already dead by the time he gave a penalty. But I just thought it was going to be a corner. So yeah, pretty stunned. Not the ref point to the spot. Not surprised VAR overturned it. I don't think it could do anything else. I mean, it's hit shoulder. It's not an offence. It's kind of. So closeness doesn't even come into it. He needs to handle the ball before it's going to be a pen.
Stephen Naismith's comments after the game were interesting. I think he's a man that's kind of clutching at straws at the moment. He said if you're going to give one, you have to give them both, which I think creates a very false equivalence between the two handballs. I think the Scales one in this game was more equivalent to the Iwata one, which was coincidentally given against Hearts last season. If you remember back to that one, where the ball comes from behind Iwata and hits him in the arm. Now, I will just add a bit of narrative here in the sense that the one that's given against Iwata last year is the same one where Rodgers comes out and accuses a referee who I will not name, John Beaton, of being incompetent. And that's what gets him in front of the SFA, gets him a one-game ban. Ends up with Willie Collin getting stated as the head of referees. Do you think that Scales penalty stands as a penalty if Rodgers doesn't eat that one-game ban last year and come out and call refs incompetent?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, it's hit shoulder. They need to see it hit his arm. That's the problem. How it was given, you don't know, because it's not hit his arm or his hand. It's hit his shoulder. You're like, you can't give a penalty for it hit his shoulder. I think off a whack come off it did come off his arm. So it was close. It was from behind. I don't think it should have been given. But the Scales one, it's just never ever a penalty. The ball could come off somebody's shoulder. It's just not a penalty. So I'm just shocked that the ref gave it. Not surprised that VAR overturned it. I guess that's what it's there for. But I need to rewatch the game. I thought Taylor flicked the ball out for a corner, and the ball went dead before the ref gives a pen. So I'm not too sure when it started with a bounce ball to us. It was a bit,
I guess it depends when he's blown the whistle. And look, I was watching on Celtic TV, and as soon as he's the first thing I know about it is he's going like this, and I'm like, wait, he's given a penalty here. And then the Celtic TV feed cuts out for about 5 to 10 minutes, so I didn't really get to see the VAR review until half time. So it was a bit of a confusion to me as well. But what did you make of the performance? Did you think Bernardo going out of the team disrupted the flow, or do you think it was more down to the international travel, or what did you reckon was the main disruptor? Because we were on fire for the first 4 league games and cup game of the season. But it was really evident that we were not at that same standard against Hearts. Was it down to opposition, the international travel? What do you reckon?
I think it's a combination. The international travel takes a wee bit out of it. Rio wasn't kind of his levels. Engels hasn't played with the team that much, doesn't know where the players are, so he's not getting the one-touch pass and knowing where somebody is in the park straight away that Bernardo perhaps was getting. Hearts were kind of disrupting the game a bit. The ref was kind of giving niggly fouls or fouls for not a lot. I mean, couldn't get in a booking for practically nothing, and you're thinking, how did penalties not end up getting sent off? He had a few bad tackles and he handles the ball in the box and only a yellow. So I think, the flows was more, it's a combination of things, isn't it? Disrupting the midfield, players being away in international duty, and the opposition. Hearts are in a hard place just now. Naismith's got to be favourite for the sack at the moment, and they were kind of scrapping for everything. They were trying to drag us down to their level. I don't actually think we didn't look like ever losing anything at Hearts. Don't think we got out of first gear. I think it was the only way they would have got a goal. It's it. Should we? Kyogo was finishing was a wee bit off. He's 1-on-1 with Craig Gordon. He's got to hit the target, and he's went for the small side of the goal there. You think move that to your left or take it round the keeper. Plenty of time. Instead, the shot's off and he's put it wide. I thought Ida was unlucky for his goal not to count, but it's a new record for us. 5 games in, 5 clean sheets. Yeah, so
I'd got a note from Paul John via Celtic Curio that apparently there was 6 games in 1906. Let me just see if I can find the name that he'd sent me of the goalkeeper. I think it was
Matt over at Celtic Curio, isn't it? It's Matt who runs that.
Yeah, it could have been. Sorry, I didn't get that information. Just try to find it here. Oh, I'll find it in a minute. Oh yeah, here we go. Tom Sinclair, 9 clean sheets in 1906 from Celtic Curio. So it might just be there was a gap in the stats, or maybe the goalkeeper's changed or something like that. To be fair, I think it's when we're talking about records, I think the record is in regard to the start of a season, because we've obviously had longer runs without conceding goals since then. I don't remember but the specific numbers, but I know Craig Gordon and Fraser Foster both had kind of record-breaking runs in recent years.
I think Carol Muggleton had 9 at one point as well.
Did he?
Well, lost it away to Motherwell on a Wednesday night. I think he lost it a goal at Fir Park.
So how much credit are you giving Kasper Schmeichel then, since they're the goalkeepers are normally the ones that get credited with these records? So how much credit are you giving to Kasper Schmeichel? How much credit are you giving to the fact that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the same back four we've had in every game so far?
Yeah, I think, Taylor and Scales are kind of the whipping boys just now, but playing out of skin, especially, Scales. It's, he's holding on to that shot. We've got a 6 million defender now in the building, but through his sheer determination, attitude, work rate, he's ensuring he's keeping that shot, and he's a key part of that. He gets targeted a lot. They'll come down the left side, they'll throw balls in the air and aim. So, I think big credit to all 5 of them. Schmeichel's certainly moving the ball better with his feet. He's starting attacks quicker. But credit to all 5 of them. In doing that. Hopefully we continue that in the Champions League as well.
There's a few comments here in favour of our Irish Maldini, Liamo Scalzi, and Leonardo Scalacci. So I think he's getting a lot more credit so far this season than he has in previous seasons. He did get a new deal last year, so the Carter Vickers. There's been a lot of leaks about Alistair Johnson getting offered a new deal to bring him in line, but no chat about Greg Taylor. Is he being harshly treated? I know you're talking about being targeted there, but he's not got ahead of him yet. Is that a matter of time, or is it something?
I think Fat's hate play, but Taylor, I think they're speaking about a deal at the moment. Nothing's been agreed. He's in his last year of his contract, so it's kind of key that we get that agreed. Vi's only here on loan for a year. You don't want to be needing 2 left backs at the end of the season. Vi returns to Barcelona, and if we haven't got a new deal agreed with Taylor, his tenure is long enough to find some competition for Greg, and hopefully Faye is that. But I think in his mind he's come over here to play. But we need to dislodge Greg, and as long as the defence isn't losing goals, it's going to be hard to get another defender in there, isn't it? What's the reason for dropping a defender out of defence that just doesn't lose goals?
That's a good point. And and Kasper Schmeichel had only really one save to make on Saturday that I recall, or one save of note you would maybe not expect any other goalkeeper to make. So, but he did make it, and it was 1-0 at that time. And that's the sort of thing you talk about when you measure what a goalkeeper is worth. You tend to say this goalkeeper is worth 9 points within a season, and you're talking about those, not the saves that they make when you're 3-0 up, but the saves that they make at crucial times when a game's in the balance, 1-0, one each sort of things. And I think you have to give Kasper Schmeichel all the credit for getting down to that chance that Hearts did have 1-0. Not just for getting down to it, but the fact that he held it as well when there was a lot of Hearts players in and around that 6-yard box. So I think he does. This is probably one of those games where you say, 2 points could be credited to the fact that we've got that quality goalkeeper in there.
I think if Hearts had scored, we'd have went through the gears. I think Celtic were well within themselves. But yeah, credit to him for holding it. Penroy's maybe, once they have a look at how to hold the ball, could learn a bit from Schmeichel. But yeah, it was it was as comfortable a 3 points as I've seen as had against Hearts in a long while. At no point did I worry about dropping points in that game.
Do you think that was to do with the improvement in the quality of the squad since we've come out this transfer window, or do you think it's to do with how we've been playing this season, or do you think it's just to do with the fact that Hearts have collected 1 point in the league so far and have been knocked out the cup by Falkirk, or is it all of those things?
I think Hearts are having a terrible start, but I think Brendan's really got us playing well. It's more to the standard Brendan's imposing on the team, what's expected of them. Last season were really disrupted by injury and didn't have as good a transfer window as we appear to have this time round, So I think it's the benefit of Brendan working for the players for longer, and they now are able to kind of carry out his plans better. So yeah, Hearts, they've got to be, if they don't start pulling points in, in the next 3 or 4 games, they'll be favourite for the drop if they aren't already. And this was a team that was talking about trying to come into second place. I think they've lost that aspiration to Aberdeen. That it looks like Aberdeen, if they keep that playing as they are and developing, it'll be them that are looking at second place. Because I watched their highlights and the boys scoring the goals for them. Big bit of boy, moves fast, great finish. 5 wins out of 5 for them. It's I'm glad we've got them at Celtic Park, rather than Pittodrie. I think the Rangers have to go to Pittodrie. So I think Pittodrie can be intimidating, should we say?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's 10 wins out of 10 if you include the League Cup. So they've won every game this season. And I think it's one of those weird occasions where having the League Cup group stage is almost like a pre-season for a lot of teams, and that's a disadvantage to the teams that are playing in Europe, namely Hearts and Kilmarnock, who are currently sitting in 12th and 11th in the league. And I think as much as European participation damages these squads, these smaller, otherwise it's small, but smaller than Celtic teams, I think also not having those 4 kind of soft landing League Cup group stage matches does probably harm them as well. So I think that kind of gave Aberdeen a chance to get some momentum and hit the ground running. How long do you see them actually keeping that up for? Do you think it's until they play us? Because even if we take points off them, they're still technically ahead of the other Glasgow teams, unless,
The manager will be saying to them, listen, we're going to Celtic Park. We're not expected to take anything from there.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be looking to get something at Pittodrie against us, but I think it's a free hit for them at Celtic Park. If they kept winning until they come to us, it's a free hit for them. They don't expect to get anything out of it. They won't be under pressure. But at the same time, they'll know that that's their chance to put down a real marker for the season if they were to take anything off of us. But I think we've got a free week before it, haven't we? Before their visit. It's not before their visit. I think we play in the Champions League after they visit. So I think it's Europa League that week.
Is that the Europa League exclusive, where all three competitions now have an exclusive week where they play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
Yeah, listen, it'd be great seeing it. Honestly, I think they'll finish second, just the way they're going. They're looking decent. Hearts seem to be out of it. United are patchy, and they were, and Rangers don't be looking to put together any kind of semblance of football style or a decent team in the park. We beat them with ease again. I know it was 4 shots each. Never mind, I think 2 or 3 of those shots were offside, and the other 2 that weren't came at the end of the game when we were out of sight. So yeah, I think it'd be great to have a bit of genuine competition for Aberdeen, because the Champions League will take its toll on us. We've got 8 games. We knew that. We knew we will need a better quality of squad to handle those 8 games. Guys like Luke McKeown coming in, he's scored already. He's not looked out of place when he's played. Guys like him are going to be key to us handling the kind of extra pressure of Champions League game kind of situation. Aberdeen will know that if they can pick something up before the new year, get to New Year still in touch or even ahead, that they could be in a right chance.
Yeah, and a lot of the narrative is talking about and using this tired old phrase, splitting the old firm, when what they actually mean is knocking Rangers down to third place when they do say that phrase, because I don't think anyone realistically expects Aberdeen to challenge for the title, and I don't think anyone else realistically expects Celtic to be finishing third. So when you say splitting the old firm, what are we really saying here?
But see, if you talk about Aberdeen challenging for the title, the manager's got to write off the 4 games against Celtic, and it's look at what they do against the rest of the league. Could put them in a position to challenge. Then they're only looking for a Celtic to drop, 12 points. I think anything at all from Celtic is bonus to them. So they don't need to challenge us on those 4 games if they win the rest of the games, and that's what I think what the managers should be focusing his squad on, and they could pull out a real challenge if they do that. They need a bit of luck, avoiding injuries, another good transfer window. Who knows? But it certainly, it'd be interesting to see something different. Splitting old firm, above Rangers. The Rangers' trouble, will they catch Aberdeen? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. Not the way the seasons went so far. They need to get a real turnaround in form pretty soon.
How many points do you anticipate us dropping in the next 33 games?
33 games. Oh, it's the 8 Champions League games. It's really what we do.
Sorry, I meant just the league and the 33 league
it's impacted the Champions League games on as well. Squad. So, hopefully we're not dropping any more than 12, but we'll see. Listen, we might drop some once the league's won. I still think we'll win the league, but it'd be good if Aberdeen could keep in touch the kind of new year and make it a bit more of a competition for us. Something a bit different.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And another thing to say about Hearts is they are our third European representative for Scotland in the group stages this year. And Andy Lee comes in and says, to be fair, I don't think Hearts are as bad as the table shows, and I hope he's right, because we are kind of going to be relying on him to get some coefficient points for Scotland. And yeah, the end of financial year results came out today. And there was a few things in there relating to European football and how that impacts Celtic. Now, I don't know if you read through the report or the chairman's comment, but one thing that jumped out at me was the line, Celtic firmly established as a European club from a participation perspective. And that's the headline of our show today. Will we compete rather than participate in Europe in Champions League? So next year we're going to have to qualify. That's already known. But if we want to be automatic qualifiers from after next year, then we're going to have to start picking up coefficient points this year. So what's your gut feeling so far at this stage, Lawrence? Are we going to be actually competing, or as the financials that were released today say, are we just there as participants once again?
So the Tosh and Timo and the scouting department seem to have got us a good transfer window. They've got a decent level of player in from what we've seen on them so far. And it's, if you could have picked 4 home ties, if you could have picked the teams you're going to play at home, you'd have probably picked those 4. So if we can compete with the draw we've got, we're in serious trouble. So I think we will be competitive. I'd expect us to win tomorrow night, get us off to a good start. If we win all 4 home games, 12 points, I think that'll be enough to take us to the next stage.
Do you think we'll win all 4? Do you think we'll beat Leipzig at home?
Yeah, I think so. If we keep the momentum going in the way Brendan's got the team feeling, Engels will have settled in by then. So, yeah, I think they will. I think we'll win all 4. You know, Celtic Park's not a good place to come. You heard kind of Real Madrid when they came, they knew it wasn't going to be good. It was going to be hard in the first 45 minutes. If Brendan can get his team starting like he did before the international break to that level in the Champions League game, no reason why we can't beat them at home. And then if you pick anything up in the road, it's just a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the second and third match days, which are Dortmund and Atalanta away. So that's going to be an interesting one. But turn our attention to Wednesday just for a second. So we're playing Bratislava first. I believe it's a 8 p.m. kickoff, Celtic Park time on Wednesday. So that's one of the ones we're saying it's our first game. And the interview that was out today with Callum McGregor was talking about wiping the slate clean. Now, I think I know where he's going with that, because every time we underperform in the Champions League, the narrative, everyone rolls out the stats of like how many games we've won in this many years, how many points. Last year we got 4 points, season before we got 2 points. So we're not really doing great in the Champions League, and we are participating rather than competing. But Slovan Bratislava at home surely is the chance. And with Callum McGregor's interview, he's talking about this is a clean slate. We're not focusing on what's happened in the past. Do you think that's just a mind games from Rodgers to try and get the players fresh? Or do you think we are actually better than the teams that have picked up 2 and 4 points respectively in the last 2 years?
You don't want to focus and think we always get beat in Europe. We don't do well. You've got to get them a positive outlook in this game before they play it. Same token, you don't want to kind of throw away the lessons you've learned through those defeats and through kind of the adversities you've faced. But it is a new team. You know, it's a new league format. Everybody's starting 0 points. You know, what you don't want to thinking, oh, we only got 4 out of 12 last season. That's terrible. No, it's day one in a new Champions League. You know, be focused and bring these 3 points, get them on the board. And, you know, I think it'll be massive for us if we win the first game. I expect us to win 2 or 3-0. You know, you're going to Dortmund and Atalanta. If you get a point out of those 2 games, you're happy. You know, but you've got to win your home games. We need to turn it back into a fortress at Celtic Park. As much as I'll look at teams and think they're an easy touch, I'm also conscious you suppose other teams will be thinking that about Celtic in Europe. We need to stop that, especially at home. We need to be able to pull out results here in it. I get we've been unlucky sometimes and late minute goals, and if it only just Ram had a post and went in, or Hatate had been more composed. But you need to start putting the results in sometimes. You can have success at excuses, and we can't keep running out excuses for Europe. And again, it's the top competition where traditionally we're the only club in Scotland that plays in a top competition. So, but we do need to compete. Brendan's asked the club to back him. They've done a deal worth $9.5 million for Ida. They broke their transfer record for Engels. The boy for Barcelona is apparently a player, and yeah, it looks like they backed him. So it's kind of over to Brendan and the team to show what it can do in the park now. And honestly, I think if they could have picked an opening game, this would have been it.
Mm-hmm. So again, it was listed in the report today, the players in and out. And since last season, we've had 9 players out and 8 come in. So you're talking outs, including loans, are Haksabanovic, O'Reilly, Johnston, Kobayashi, Siegrist, Awata, Lagerbielk, and Kwon. So the only one you're saying there is, Matt O'Reilly maybe is the only one that would actually get a game out of that lot. Of the
lot. Whoever at the club has been setting those deals up and moving them on. Lots of players with a profit on as well. You know, so it has been great work from the club getting that kind of volume out. But Roger spoke about the kind of the need to reduce the numbers and increase the quality, which on the face of it looks like he's done.
Well, we've brought 8 in, but of those 8, 2 include the players that were here on loan, which is Bernardo and Ida. The others, the 2 goalkeepers, then it's Engels, Trusty, McCowan, and Valle. So when you're talking about squad change, it's really those last 4. In terms of, obviously the goalkeepers an increase, potentially increase in quality, debatable. But Engels, Trusty, McCowan, and Valle seem to be the ones that are the quality, the difference in quality from where we were before to where we are now. Yeah, and you mentioned Rodgers has been backed. Well, again, the money would suggest that. If you look at the acquisition of player registrations from the last year that ended in the end of June, it was 16.6 million. So for 12 months up to the end of June, we'd invested 16.6. And then in July and August, the 2 months that followed that, we've added a further 31. So we've essentially spent in 2 months the same thing that we spent in 12 months previous. So is that a very clear sign that Rodgers has been backed, or is that just numbers on page and it doesn't actually matter?
No, I think it's a clear sign that he's been backed. And we also speak about the board and the lack of ambition. You know, I think it's a realisation from them that they have to back him, but it shows their ambition in Europe as well. You know, we've got minimum 8 games. It's not the 4 that you could write off. You've got 8 games here. There's income streams will come from it, every one of those games. But we do really need to compete. And I think bringing Brendan back, you know, Dermot didn't bring him back just to win in Scotland. We've been winning most of a century in Scotland. You know, you read when Dermot tried to bring Alex Ferguson, it wasn't just to win in Scotland. You know, he's a Celtic fan. He will want us to do something in Europe. And yeah, you've just got to hope that the team, you know, produce it on the park. They've got 8 games. It's less say a lottery with 8 games. And yeah, the teams we've got at home, I think you'd have picked them out the teams. So yeah, I honestly think we'll either take 9 or 10 points at home. You know, but rather than 10 or 12, but I think we'll take 9 or 10 at home.
Well, as you mentioned, it's about what happens on the park. But again, results were released today, and it shows that year-end cash, the cash in the bank has increased from 72 to 77 million. So that doesn't really do much to take away from the critics that would say, you know, bank balance FC, for example. But some other figures you can pull out from that are we actually, like, technically, according to the numbers, we lost about 6 million in player trading from this year to last year. So we technically spent more than we brought in, even if it's just minor, and even if we do have 77 million in the bank. And so and then the other one that jumped out at me was that there was no dividends paid on ordinary shares and only 500,000 paid out on preference shares. So even we've got 77 million in the bank and we're talking about bank balance FC paying off dividends and shareholders, 500,000 on preference shares doesn't seem like a lot on the scale of things, and no dividend in ordinary shares doesn't suggest that they're running it for dividends to the shareholders, even though that is often the narrative that comes out. Did you have any reflection on that, or is that just, again, we're interested in football here, not numbers? What do you think?
That's a healthy bank balance. It's no surprise. We're kind of a very prudent and well-run club. We've also got to keep an eye on the winter transfer window. You know, if we are progressing in Europe, the manager might want to invest in as well. So you don't know what plans they've got. You know, are they ever going to build a hotel and museum? Who knows? But it's a lot of money to be sitting there. But hopefully they've got some targets identified for kind of the winter transfer window. I'm thinking maybe on the wings we could use a bit more backup. But I think bringing in 6 new players to the club, the 2 keepers and the 4 you mentioned, it's a lot into a squad, especially boys that you're going to be expecting to be playing more often than not. So it's kind of hard balance to you maybe wouldn't want to upset it too much by bringing in any more than we've brought in other than those 6. You touched on, you know, Ida and Bernardo were already here. It's not like we didn't know they would integrate or not. So they were already fairly settled. So yeah, we're well run. We've got money in the bank. It's the board have showed ambition. You know, they broke the transfer record. It's down to the team now to take us keep us in Europe beyond Christmas, and then hopefully we're splashing again in the winter transfer window.
Yep, and exactly, and hopefully, I hope that it's almost every time a player goes out now that we're bringing in Engels quality, because as we've talked about, as we've reflected on, bringing in those 9 players last year, and lucky if one of them could be considered contributing. My reflection on it was this time, not even this time last year, but about 11 months ago, when we were playing in the Champions League, and Rodgers was coming out after these Champions League games and saying the consistent message was lack of quality at that point. And one of the players that was pretty much carrying us at that point was Luis Palma, if you remember back to that.
He was cracking first 4 or 5 months. Yeah, he was cracking.
Exactly. And that was the time he was carrying us. Palma was carrying the team to points and victories domestically and in Europe. And after those games, Rodgers was saying lack of quality, need more quality. We're now at a point where Luis Palma can barely get a sniff. So to me, that gives me the most hope that this squad is improved significantly enough to compete in Europe. And I'm hoping that is the case, because obviously you and I are of a vintage, Lawrence, that we are quite scarred by all the kind of Champions League performances that we've had since we first qualified in 2000. I'm guessing you were there alongside me back when we played Ajax and Juventus in the Martin O'Neill second season.
Oh, I can remember when we played Juventus when Brady was playing for them. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a cracking game. Brady playing in that one. I remember Snoopy and Johnny Doyle playing against Real Madrid. But, you need to get back to those. Those are the games that kind of really lift us. You can feel the atmosphere in the ground, kind of. And you want to, start putting up points in the boards and ones in the boards in Europe. I think most Celtic fans see that's where we should be competing. And moving to 8 games, the expansion of the Champions League, I don't think it's going to go down the way in future. I think it will go up the way the number of games that are getting played. And to be honest, Scottish football that they've been talking about, can't restructure the league. People rely on the visits, Celtic and Rangers and the Rangers for ticket money. Well, now you're limiting the number of fans at away games. Can't really say we can't do reconstruction because you need to get 2 visits to Celtic and Rangers, because you're not selling us the tickets and the numbers that you used to. So maybe Celtic could be looking at doing something in tandem there. Reducing the number of league games in Scotland and kind of matching that as they expect the Champions League to go up. But
it would be amazing. Yeah. I think we'd all love to see that league expansion. So you only play teams once a season and it becomes more of an event, more derbies. If you've got Ayr United and Kilmarnock in the same league, but the problem is trying to get, these people that are in charge of the boards to actually agree with it. And I kind of agree with your sentiment there about the away fans. That actually gives me hope a little bit, that there's a little bit of listening to the fans going on, and that there might be enough, not what is the bank balance for next season thinking, and a bit more medium to long-term vision that might actually see us get that league expansion that pretty much every fan wants. I've not heard anyone say otherwise. Have you?
No, I mean, go back to home and away once a season. That's it. Hopefully with a league expansion, I know they would say there would be a lot of meaningless games, but it might allow teams to develop some of the players, because you're either kind of scrapping for top 6 or to avoid bottom 6 in relegation. A bigger league, you've got more of a middle ground, teams in the middle ground that can maybe look at developing players, giving them minutes. So I know the excuse used to be, but they need the 2 visits to Celtic because of the fans, and well, you're not selling us the tickets and the numbers, so you really don't need the 2 visits anymore, do you?
No, and exactly, and it's actually kind of hard for these games to stand out in the memory. Unless you're getting like a last minute winner at Fir Park, most other games against Motherwell are pretty unmemorable.
Tony Ralston at Ross County.
Exactly.
I didn't know he knew the Tandoori Tony song, but yeah, hats off to Tony Ralston.
Yeah, and maybe 9-0 at Tannadice, but name another Dundee United scoreline. Do you know what I mean? Like the 4-2 win, I think, where we had the last minute Kyogo header from the free the corner, and then after that, you're like, what? And as Michael Ross says here, Europe is way more important than trebles. And again, it's those European games that really stand out. They're the ones that you're talking about. Liam Brady, Juventus. We're talking about 4-3 against Juventus. Massimo Donati and Scott McDonald scoring against AC Milan. These are the generational ones that we want, that the fans remember. And I think that the younger generation that come through have been somewhat starved of that in recent years. And I really hope that this improvement of squad quality is going to create something like that this year. And I think having more fixtures is going to give us a greater chance of that. And also have more variety is going to give us a greater chance of that.
Yeah, definitely. The more fixtures, the board will like that for the income alone, but it should hopefully allow them to speculate a bit more and say, well, look, we've got 8 games. It's going to go up from there. They don't want the big teams to break away. And how long it will take, but the next 10 or 15 years, you might be looking at 12, 15 games in the Champions League. Be great. We've
to be fair,
we remain the team that's getting there.
To be fair, in the past, we've played 10 to 12 Champions League games when we had to start qualifying in June. So there's an argument that it's not necessarily the number as much as it is the quality. Looking at Wednesday specifically for a moment. Stop me if you disagree, but I think the back 6, if you include Callum McGregor, essentially picks itself. I think the front 3, Maeda, Kyogo Kun, essentially picks itself. So then, and I think hopefully you agree, the only spots that are really up for grabs is who are your 2 centre midfielders alongside Callum McGregor, and how much is actually up for grabs there, and what would you go with, Lawrence, and what do you think Rodgers would go with?
I think Rodgers will go with Engels. I think he'll start him. I think starting on the weekend showed that. And he might go with Bernardo. Just give the defence a wee bit more protection. And I think that's probably what Rodgers will go with. For me, I would probably start attacking Engels, but I think he'll start Bernardo and Engels alongside Kilmark. The rest of it, the same. I think they'll just that wee bit more protection in front of the defence in Europe. But I don't expect him their strikers to be as bad as some of the strikers in his PFL.
So do you think that we're going to play in a style that was more like in the Derby game, where we were more reserved with our press, waiting for more specific triggers?
I think, when you set up, your setup changes through the game and depending where the ball is. I think at times we might see almost a double pivot, almost a double 6, but we've got the midfield players that can change position and can push further forward or drop back. So we've got that flexibility in midfield. So I think, but the speed of the front 3, we might be looking at turning them over quickly. Try and draw them onto us and get them in transition. Because the speed of our front 3, I think any defence in Scotland struggles to live with it, and I think most in Europe would struggle to live with that speed of the front 3.
Do you think that Slovan Bratislava will come out at all, or do you think it's going to be much the same as facing Hearts, but a Hearts with better quality on the counter-attack, for example, or a bit more about them than
I think it's a bit more cagey. They'll Real Madrid spoke about they knew they had to keep it tight in the first half. They'll know that we're going to come flying out the traps and putting pressure on them. They'll be a wee bit more cagey in the first half. And in the second half, it will be a wee bit more adventurous. But it's for them, they'll be looking at this going, points good, 3's better, but they won't want to lose an early goal away from home. I don't think it's any different from any kind of other European team. They won't want to get kind of 60,000 fans reacting to an early lead and making it already more pressurised environment than they're already in. So I think they'll be trying to keep it tight at the beginning and open up as the game goes on a bit. But I just don't think they'll have the quality matches. I've not watched much of them, but what I've seen, I'd say we should be able to take care of them. Who knows? Callum may score another screamer.
He was off. He didn't score at the weekend. He's losing it, isn't he? He's a bit off form.
Yeah, so probably was his one. But Kyogo, hopefully Kyogo's back and forth. I thought kind of a couple of misses against Hearts, you'd expected him to put both away, but hopefully saving it for Europe. He does like the big games.
Yeah, that's true. The only goal he scored so far this season was in the derby, right? Am I wrong? Did I miss another one? I think that's 6 games, and we've got 1 goal between our strikers, unless you include Maeda scoring the 2 when you played up front against Hibs. But certainly 1 goal between Kyogo and Ida. Do you see Ida having a crucial role to play coming off the bench, or do you think he's just a bit too rusty and he'll only be used in relief?
I hope the game's done by then. I hope we're 1 or 2 up first half. I wouldn't see Ida coming on until second half. It does look a wee bit rusty. Could maybe have done with getting the pre-season with the rest of the players. I know he was away with Norwich, but I don't know if their standard of pre-season is a Brendan Rodgers standard. So, I think you're going to see him kind of with 20 minutes to go. Hopefully, we're 2 or 3 up then.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Bratislava just now, and they've won 5 out of 6 domestically, so they are top of their league. In terms of qualifying, they had Midtjylland, who are not a bad team, but I don't know if you'd say too much else about them, and Apoel Nicosia. So, they didn't come through the easiest route. They played 4 qualifying rounds. Sorry, in fact, I just noticed that now. So they've done the long haul to get here. So we obviously can't be underestimating them. But as the home team, and I believe they're 4th seeds, not that seeding matters too much now. Yeah, what would your reaction be if we don't pick up 3 points? How would you be feeling at that point?
Oh yeah, you're going to feel extremely disappointed in it. I suppose it's why. See how the game played out, but you're disappointed if you don't pick up the 3 points at home. I think everyone's expecting us to win that and go out and put a marker down. Brendan's got the quality in that he was asking for. And it's the team's been we're okay against Hearts. Don't think we're out of first gear, but before the international break, playing some cracking stuff. So hopefully we'll get back to that on Wednesday. And honestly, speed it up front 3. I don't think their defence will live with it. So I think if we're getting them in transition and turnovers, we should be getting in the box and getting a shot on target.
Yeah, and obviously Kuhn is going to be key to that, the way he's been playing. I wonder that Maeda will get the space, and I'm hoping it's not relying on Ida, as you mentioned, coming on. I'm hoping it's not relying on Palma and Forrest coming off the bench, even though Forrest has been doing very well coming off the bench recently. I don't know if you noticed, but Forrest was name dropped by Michael Nicholson in the end of year report that was released. It was mentioned that he's won a medal behind Bobby Lennox now and 1 ahead of Billy McNeil. And Michael Nicholson was talking about how inspirational James Forrest is. One thing that I noticed last week about him is that James Forrest, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments here, but I believe he's the only first team player that's came through our ranks that has not been out on loan. So looking at the rest of the squad, pretty much everyone that's broken into the team, like Callum McGregor was at Notts County, Stephen Welsh, if you count him, was at Morton, all that sort of stuff. And James Forrest, that's achievement in itself, I think, to actually never have to have a loan spell to go straight into the Celtic first team.
Yeah, I think Lenny gave him his start off the bench against, well, not start, I suppose, come off the bench against Motherwell, scored, 17 years old. Yeah, never been anywhere else. I think last season at Christmas there was talk that he might be going out on loan. He might have been surplus to the requirements, but it certainly had a good end to the season and proved everybody wrong. He's done. There's been a few times people saying, "Oh, Forrest has maybe done," but I can see him overtaking Bobby's record. We've got to be looking at to pick up all 3 trophies in Scotland, surely, and that would put him above Lennox. But yeah, cracking servant to the club, and they got my free jersey with 500 on the back to mark him coming into the 500 club. Changed days when Fergus would charge the players for the jerseys. But,
he's probably still trying to figure out a way to do that just now. And again, the honours, again, even though they're team honours, they do get does get kind of put on individual players a little bit. It was mentioned again in the report today that we're now at 118 major honours in Scotland. And what was also mentioned was that 38 of those have been in the last 25 years, so since Martin O'Neill came in. So if you can average that out, it's about one and a half. I did work out earlier, roughly 1.5 per year. And if you work it out, the 80 trophies that came in the 100, however long years it was before that, 108, 112 years, then that works out about 0.72. So we're essentially, since the millennium, we're essentially doubled our trophy output per year. Does that detract anymore, or do you think it doesn't? Do you think it's irrelevant? Do you think that?
Well, the League Cup didn't come into later, let's be honest, and there were cups that were important that we now don't count. They were won in the early years, like the Glasgow Cup. So it's kind of, it's not quite apples with apples, you know. So those three, what would term the major trophies now, weren't always available in the previous years. But I think we need to look back to Fergus and Tommy Burns, because the O'Neill, it didn't start with O'Neill, it started with aim and the hard work that was put in from the takeover, and the fans, guys like Matt McGlone, Brendan Sweeney, Jim Orr, mobilising Celtic fans, overthrowing the old board. That was a lot of hard work, and then building a new stadium. Fergus didn't promise trophies, although he did deliver some. You had to kind of go through all that to get into the position, to get Martin O'Neill to the club, to allow you to get the dominant position. It's not something that happens overnight just by splashing cash and players and overpaying in wages, as other football clubs have found out. You kind of need to do the hard yards. So, a lot to thank kind of Tommy and Fergus for, Wim Jansen, and the kind of fans reps that I mentioned, Brendan, Jim and Matt, there was a lot of work went into getting Celtic to this position.
Yeah, and that was, again, something that was mentioned. Now, I'll read a direct quote and you can reflect on what you think, how you would interpret this. But I believe this was a Peter Lawwell quote from the report. Our strategy has been crucial to the domestic success of recent years, and it is one your board intends to maintain. Now, does that ring true to you? Or would you say that the fact we've doubled our spending in 2 months versus the previous 12 months suggests that there might actually be a change in the strategy? Or do you think this is a flash in the pan and that they are looking to maintain that buy low, sell high model, but at a high quantity? Or do you think they're actually not, that's not a true statement, and that they're actually trying to do what Roger says and trade off quantity for quality?
I think the strategy has always been that we're a selling club. We'll invest in players that we can improve and sell them on for more money. So I guess we're investing more just now. But prices have went up and everything. So I think essentially, the strategy is not going to change. We're still going to be a selling club. We're still going to look into, there's a deficit in TV revenue between us and other big European clubs. So we need to make that up through player trading. Thing is, if you're buying Engels at 11 and you're developing, you're hoping you're going to sell them for more than your transfer record, sell them for more than you did O'Reilly. So I think the strategy is still the same, that we're buying players that we can develop and sell for more money. I think that's essentially true. The level of investments went up because the price of things has went up. We've had to invest more. I think when Rodgers was here first time round, the money we spent in Edward was a record. We invested then. It's how cautious and how prudent we are. I think we'd all like them to be a bit less cautious, a bit more speculative. And again, might have forwarded that. If they put me in charge, I might have blown the money 10 times over, and goodness knows where we'd be. It's okay. I was saying, look, buy the player. I mean, I sit down and go, right, we need to write it all for a 4-year contract. What's wages we're at? What's the player's agent's cut? How much is the deal actually worth versus our guaranteed income? 11 million something for Engels. It's almost 10% of our turnover. It's a huge investment in any one player. For any company to spend 10% of the turnover on one thing is huge. So I think the strategy will stay the same. I just think with the extra Champions League games, it allows us to attract a better level of player. The managers that stronger perhaps than other managers that came before him, and he's more willing to push the boat out and get a higher quality player in. I think when Ronnie came in, he was originally interviewed as a number 2. I don't know how strong he was in demanding ground good quality and spending more money on players. So, yeah, essentially, I think it's true. But I'd expect, as long as Brendan's here, he's going to be looking for that quality player, and that quality player normally comes at a price. That being said, look at Luke McGowan, great signing for the money, and he's not looked out of place in the midfield. So we've got to still keep an eye on some gems that are out there that can pick up the bottom end of the market as well.
I would describe in Scotland as the best player in Scotland outside of Celtic and Rangers is the bottom end of the market. No, I'm being facetious, mate. But yeah, what do you? Here's a hypothetical then. If Engels coming in for 11 million, and obviously we had the Hearts players trying to use that as a psyching out tactic at the weekend, it didn't work. To be honest, he probably didn't understand what they were actually saying, given the Scottish accent to a foreigner. But say, for example, Engels doesn't quite settle. He's in and out of the team, plays, he starts against Falkirks and then he's on the bench for like the Derby games. Say that's his level of success here, and he has to leave next summer. How much do you think we'd recoup for a player that we signed for 11 million, even if he leaves as someone who's not been a success?
Still going to get games for Belgium. He's just broke into their team. So he's obviously a player with a lot of potential. He's a Belgium internationalist. So it'd be hard to see what he does in the Champions League game. I suppose that's where we're going to judge success for him on the big games. And hopefully, Wednesday night's the start of that. From what you've seen before, I don't think he's going to have any trouble playing against your Falkirks or against Rangers. I think it's what can he do for us in Europe? That's what we're asking. That's what we're spending that kind of money for. What can these players do in Europe? Can they make us, take us beyond participation to being competitive? And hopefully will. But Europe's going to be the proof in it, or Wednesday's going to be the proof in the pudding, isn't it? See how he performs then. We're looking for a big performance from him. He's your record signing.
Yeah, I think he's built up enough reputation before even arriving here that if he doesn't make it, we'd still get at least 80% of the fee back. And I think when you look at it that way, 11, say he left for 8 million next summer, if he hadn't settled and he hadn't succeeded, if you will, a 3 million loss if he didn't succeed, which we think he will. He's shown signs that he will. But say, for example, hypothetically, 3 million loss, that's the same as Lagerbielke, who's come in and gone, right? So I don't think it's obviously it's playing at the bigger tables with bigger chips, but I think the numbers aren't significantly different. So I think that's probably where it comes into having the same strategy, just playing on a higher table, right? Playing at a bigger bet table. You mentioned before we'll always be a selling club. How many teams worldwide would you say are not selling clubs?
Listen, that don't rely on the revenue to make up the gap. There's not a lot of them. You look down south, Man United's probably a selling club now. They're falling away from the top six, aren't they? They're struggling. They're needing to generate that income they're missing out in Champions League. I suppose that Barcelona, Real Madrid, are they really selling clubs? Probably not. They always get dodgy bank loans. But UEFA's brought in some new regulations, haven't they, that will make it harder to buy success. So maybe that will change the outlook in the game. Teams can't go out and just spend money they don't have, go bust, reinvent themselves, or run up fantasy debt. So it might change it and make it more of a level playing field for us. But I wouldn't think there's a lot of clubs that don't look at it as a way of generating revenue. Let's be honest, teams need freshened up. And if you've got players worth 20 million, you're going to want to get that for them or more. So every club needs to have a way of moving players on and selling them for money. But teams that don't need to sell, I think there's very few. Probably Real Madrid, Barcelona, maybe PSG. I don't know. Did the regulations apply to City? Did they get off?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know.
We could do a whole podcast on that. I'll just address a comment directly from Paddy Lavery here. Sean, stop thinking that way. Have happy thoughts. Engels will do well. I actually do, Paddy. Based on what I've seen in the 1.5 games or so we've had from Engels so far, he showed more in 1.5 games than Matt O'Reilly did in his first few games, and Matt O'Reilly turned into a sensational player. So as long as Engels settles culturally off the pitch, I could see him having a higher trajectory than Matt O'Reilly. And I don't mean higher transfer fee. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about delivering success on the pitch to the club, which is what we all want. And just
See Watta's goal the other night, last night.
Yeah, for Birmingham, yeah.
Yes, so, you know, although we didn't sell him on for much, hopefully, you know, clubs are, it's another marker that we've got quality players, and hopefully when clubs come to us again for England, it keeps the money up that they're coming for. But I thought he came on, scored, looked cracking for them. So, you know, clubs know that we do develop players, and they can come to us and quality players. And kind of Awata going down there and performance shown that. You know, he was only with us for a few years, but yeah, what a performance he put in for them. So yeah, I think we'll always be a selling club, but you know, hopefully Engels is here for at least 3 seasons. I know the Scottish media might have him sold by the end of the season, but yeah, hopefully we'll get a few out of him. Look, continued Champions League participation means we don't need to sell as often for pulling in that kind of revenue.
We're trying to change it, Lawrence. We're not saying participation anymore. That's the dirty word now. The word now is competing. And we're here to compete in the Champions League. Can you give me a score prediction for tomorrow night?
I'm thinking 2 or 3-0, so I'll probably go 3-0, you know, for Celtic.
You think we're carrying on the clean sheets?
Carrying on the clean sheets, yep. I think, you know, with 2-0 the first half, I'd have third in the second.
And who do you think is going to be the key man we're talking about after the game?
After the game, I think probably Kuhn or Kalmak. So I'm going to go with Kuhn. I don't think he'll pick up a yellow card early, so I think he'll be able to play his full game without that yellow hanging over him. Seems to pick up silly yellow cards in Scotland, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. We've got Ian Roy saying 3-1, I presume, to Celtic. AR 1-0 will do me, of course. 3 points will do, but goal difference is going to be quite significant, I think, in this new format. We're competing against 35 other teams. Is that correct? I can't remember. So goal difference is going to be quite important. I'm more on Andy Lee and his kind of line of thinking, 2-1 and nervy. That's not what I want. It's just what my brain says. We've not mentally overcome that hurdle yet, and I hope that kind of starts this week. Yeah, I think that's the mental hurdle as much as anything. And I think that's what McGregor was talking about in the papers today. And I think, am I imagining it? Or were they talking about the Champions League when we were doing pre-season? Is that? It feels like we've been gearing up for it since then.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the benchmark's got to be for us. You know, of late it's been doubles and trebles in Scotland with not a lot of competition. You know, the thing that's been missing is the success in Europe. Brendan said he needed quality. The board have backed him. They've got quality in. You know, it's delivery time tomorrow. You want this team to go out and put down a marker for the competition. But tell you what, we go out and put a performance and win 3-0. The other teams that have still got to come to Celtic Park will be sitting up and taking notes and going, so, yeah, you get points on the board. You've got 2 away games. Take anything from them, you're happy.
Well, let's hope that when we review this game, we're not sitting here talking about chances missed, talking about how great we were but didn't get the result. Mark E saying probably give them a goal start to win the game 2-3-1. Not sure my heart can take it, but the 3 points, I'll take that. Michael Ross, it's a must win. There's a lot. I don't think anyone's been too pessimistic in the comments, so I think most fans are really on board with what we're saying. Must win, but also seems to be expect to win. And I think the bookies are kind of in agreement as well, which is an interesting one. Okay,
They're
so
really
I think
wrong the way. The bookies are really wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're right tomorrow, and the next time I see Lawrence, we're celebrating a win. I think the last thing Paul wanted me to mention was tickets for sale for the Strachan. Are you going? The Strachan and Hearts event?
Yes, I'd be cracking to see both of them on the stage. Yeah,
Yeah,
be great seeing them both. Gordon's extremely funny. John's got some touching and moving stories, really taking Celtic to his heart. He's got the tattoo to prove it. So yeah, I think he's based over at Edinburgh. I know he plays with Big Fallon out at West Linton and golf, the two Big Johns together. So yeah, be cracking night to see Hearts and Strachan on the stage together.
I'm sad I'm a bit far to commute over for that one, but I will be over at Christmas, so hopefully I'll catch up with you and the rest of the guys and whatever shows are happening around then. Other than that, hope for a positive result tomorrow. Thanks for helping me out tonight, Lawrence. It was good talking to you, and thanks to everyone in the comments for contributing. Yeah, well.